Today we're delighted to have as the second part of multi-part series with Attempted Socialism, our former Chief Justice and our current Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, and a long-serving member of the TNP executive. In the last episode, we were talking about your time as a Chief Justice, in particular on ruling number 69 on the definition of treaties and the delegates' authority to sanction residents, as well as on ruling number 72 on defunct rulings. I wanted to talk a bit about some of the other things that are happening in the court, like how the court process works, because you've been Chief Justice for a long time. And one of the things that I always find it curious about, because this was implemented in August of 2023 during your time as Chief Justice. The court implemented a list of people who are available to serve as temporary hearing officers, and also for those who don't know what a temporary hearing officer and the related role as standby hearing officer is, I think it will be very useful to go through what these positions are and what their roles are. If you could enlighten us on that.
Yeah. So the temporary hearing officer comes out of this being not a big community. I mean, we are one of the bigger communities in nation states, but compared to real life courts, people who are justices often have other positions as well. And this is not our full-time job, so we also have real life obligations. And if you have a position somewhere else, for instance in the executive, that can be even a real or a perceived conflict of interest, and so someone would have to recuse themselves. We also, because it's it's something we do next to real life jobs, sometimes justices just don't have the time, and so we would need to have three active people on a case. We would need to bring in a temporary hearing officer, and that's been quite. That has not been like a very structured process before. So in the past, it's been kind of looking back to who have served as prior justices, who have some experience in the TNP judiciary, and that I found was not ideal for transparency reasons. The people we have selected as temporary hearing officers have been excellent, but the process of selecting them was not what I wanted, because it did not give the citizenry it did not give them the information of how it was done and who were potential temporary hearing officers that the court had informally a short list, so why not make it public? So that was the temporary hearing officer status reason, the reason for that list. I had, as you might get to as well, I had a few other things that I wanted to reform in the judiciary, but that fell by the wayside, sadly. But yeah,
what are those? Would you like to, have the opportunity to discuss that? So, what are the other reforms that you were proposing for the judiciary that you were not able to do?
one that I found fairly so I proposed, based on several discussions around some of the criminal court cases, the option of a no contest plea. So in the current law, there are two pleas made explicit. You can either plead guilty or not guilty. And people have pled no contest before. And no contest is kind of, it's not as straightforward as pleading guilty or not guilty. So I'll just try to make this very short, because usually crimes require both an overt criminal act and then the criminal intent. And that is from the logic that we as a society will punish not just the action, but the desire to do something that transgresses against the laws. And if people are just, make a mistake, then we wouldn't punish that the same way as someone who deliberately does something wrong. So in real life courts, you can, in some cases, plead no contest, which is you don't dispute the action, but so you can't plead not guilty because the action happened and that's not in contention, but you dispute whether you had the sufficient criminal intent to be convicted. And that's what I wanted here, where people I think, should be able to go into a court case and plead no contest if the actions, if the straightforward events are not in dispute, but they claim that they did not intend to do some criminal act, that it was an accident or a mistake. And I think the feedback was there was basically not a lot of feedback, but I like the work that went into it, and I still believe that would be an improvement in our current judicial system.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because obviously the American system, then no contest, these are possibly more frequent, but not in the case of some other court systems in real life. So I think that's definitely an major area for reform if there had been, a consensus for it. What other reforms did you consider, and that didn't work out in the end, or before it didn't get implemented during your term of office?
Yeah, I had the broader idea that both I had this other idea of establishing prosecutorial discretion, some amount of prosecutorial discretion. And the overarching idea with both that and the no contest plea was actually to get the court out of deciding whether to take cases or not. And obviously that would have been a bigger legal reform. So I wanted to make some of the lesser steps, some of the easier steps from the bench first. But as it didn't happen, and as I don't know if you want to get into the last criminal case I was on, but as all that happened, I lost the energy to continue that work. But the idea was, right now, the court accepts a citizen files charges in a criminal case, and then the court accepts the charges, and then it's up to the delegate to appoint a prosecutor. But that means the court actually kind of prejudges a case before the prosecutor enters the picture.
In the sense that because the court is accepting or not accepting a case, so in a way it is prejudging whether there's the prima facie case for the trial, you mean?
Yes, exactly. And that so if a case is clearly unfounded, then the court will in all the cases I've seen where a case was clearly unfounded, the court has rejected the case. So the criminal charges were not even accepted by the court. And that, I think, is a fine gatekeeping role for the court, but it does place the court in kind of a prejudging stance that because justices are human, when you accept a criminal charge because you say, okay, the allegations, there is the charges as put do make a prima facie or to not Latinize too much. It makes on the face of it makes a reasonable claim, right? So you take, when you approach a criminal charge, whether to accept it or reject it, you kind of allow for, okay, if we accept everything that's written in the criminal charge, would this be something that could be prosecuted? So you try to avoid evaluating the actual evidence, but just take the charge. Is that a crime? Is that something we can prosecute? And then is there some substantiation of whether the charges can be evaluated? So that's as hands-off a judgment as the court can make under these circumstances, but it's still not perfect in my opinion. I would much prefer that the court is completely neutral in the cases running up until actually hearing the case, and that was sadly, it was more work than I could do, and especially because not a lot of people engage with the TNP judiciary when it's not when there aren't any scandals around it. So yeah, it was
Okay.
it fell by the wayside.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of scandals and recusals, I think this is back in June of 2023, and this episode won't get released until after late July of 2024, because there's 5 episodes ahead. So I think we can discuss a little bit of that. Um, there was a recusal with regards to your appointment during your time as Chief Justice, and this was the TMP versus the North Pacific versus St. George case. Because the ruling will come out after this recording is it's this broadcast will come out after the judgment is declassified. This is a 1
Yes,
year one.
okay.
So sorry.
Oh no, I just said yes. Okay, I get you.
Because so I think we can talk about that because the sentencing will get announced on the 14th of July. So this will come out but this episode will not go out until afterwards. So I think we can talk a bit about that.
Yeah.
In the next episode, I think we're going to take a break here as well because it's about coming up on about 17 minutes. So this will get cut out by Cooper. So all this discussion will get cut out by Cooper. So don't worry too much about it. I'm going to just go to the outro now, and then we'll be back to episode 3. Um um So thank you so much, Attempted Socialism, for joining us on the second part of a multi-part series on his time as the Chief Justice of the North Pacific. And you'll be listening to the Northern Broadcasting Service of the North Pacific on YouTube or on Spotify. And if you're listening to us on our YouTube channel, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you're currently not a citizen of the North Pacific, please go to our website, forum.northpacific.org, and apply for citizenship. Also, if you currently have multiple nations, don't forget to affiliate your World Assembly nation with TMP. So please join us for part 3 of our multi-part series interview with Attempted Socialism. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to get into all of the weeds with respect to the TNP judiciary. It's been it's really been a pleasure.